Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about renewable energy and the importance of using renewable energy versus using non-renewable energy and different types of renewable energy sources. And the first source I'm going to talk about is solar energy. But before I get into that, I want to go over just a few little things that there's to know if you don't know anything about renewable sources of energy. So I think it is very important that everyone should be educated about the importance of renewable energy and how it is important to our environment versus how negative using non-renewable resources are. And that is something that I feel like people should be more aware about and be more educated about, which I feel like they are not. So renewable energy is energy that is collected from renewable resources, naturally replenished on a human time scale. So that means gradually over time they will be replenished, and we're not going to have a shortage of them anytime soon because they are renewable. Naturally replenished resources are things like sunlight, wind, rain, tides, things like that. So waves and geothermal heat can also be naturally replenished over time as well. Okay, and then the reason why renewable energy is so important to our planet and our environment is because it is a clean source of energy that does not cause harmful effects to our environment, which is important so future generations can enjoy our environment just as you and I do right now. Renewable energy is different from things like fossil fuels because of their potential and abundance and the fact that we could get them from almost anywhere on this planet. Renewable energy is important is because they do not produce any greenhouse gases which cause climate change and polluting factors. So when we use renewable sources of energy, we're not causing harm to our environment with things like greenhouse gases, climate change, etc. So while I was researching different types of energy for this video, I came across something that I kind of heard about before, but I never really touched much base on, and that is our carbon footprint and how interesting it is and how it's crazy how much no one understands anything about it. It's important that you and I must lower our carbon footprint to keep, once again, the earth clean and beautiful for future generations to enjoy. Back to the fossil fuel thing, not only are fossil fuels bad for the environment, but they are a limited resource. Limited availability creates a very demanding market in which energy prices can skyrocket in a shorter period of time, and it just causes a catastrophe for everyone. Solar energy is one of many renewable resources, and using solar energy provides many benefits to the environment. Energy provides clean and effective energy that comes straight from the sun. Installing solar panels in your home help fight greenhouse gas. Okay. Installing solar power panels into your on top of your roof in your home help fight greenhouse gas emissions and reduce our collective dependence on fossil fuels as a whole. Solar energy is way far more beneficial than using something else like fossil fuels. There are cons to using it. So a con to using solar energy is that the equipment you need to install the solar energy panels is expensive. If you do not live in an area that is sunny, then the solar panels are not going to work correctly. So if you were to live in somewhere like Seattle, where it's always raining and it's not very bright out, then it's not going to work as well as it would work if you were to live in California or any other state that was always bright and sunny. When I used to live at my dad's house, we had a neighbor and she actually installed solar panels on the top of her house, and it was just so amazing to see. And she would always come over because we'd always ask her questions about it, and she'd always talk about how much money she saved over time just by installing the solar panels. A pro of this is solar energy is very clean and you have no carbon emissions. As well as another pro is solar energy can be used for heat to make electricity, and useful in the home in small appliances and satellite. Last con I have is it requires a lot of batteries. So, like I said before, I think it's very important to be educated on the different types of renewable resources. So I decided I'm going to ask my parents and see if they know any information about renewable resources and if they could tell me anything. Because I feel like the public is not as aware as they should be about the importance of renewable and non-renewable resources. What are 3 different sources of renewable energy?
I have no idea.
Can you name 3 sources of renewable energy?
Gas. I don't know what else. Oil.
Can you name 3 non-renewable sources of energy?
Mm-mm.
Can you name 3 non-renewable sources of energy?
Non-renewable?
Yes.
I don't know.
Okay, can you tell me the importance of solar energy?
No.
Khaleesi.
Can you describe how we use solar power energy on a day-to-day basis in America?
For solar power panels.
Okay, and would you ever consider putting those on your home?
Yeah, when I move out.
Do you know roughly the cost of them?
And they're very expensive.
Okay. So as you can tell after I interviewed my parents, they are very uneducated and very unaware of the importance of solar energy and the other sources of energy in our environment, which is very sad, but I am not surprised because they don't really care about the environment. So, anyways, just a few more things about solar energy and then we'll be on to the next source of energy. So when we're building or when you install solar panels, you must purchase them and they can be installed by a company or a service or anything like that. And they must be installed correctly and efficiently so you will get the solar power correctly. Installed cost of solar panels are between $7 to $9 per watt. So this would make the total cost $25,000 to $35,000, which seems very expensive, but it's a one-time cost which will overall lower the price of your energy for years to come. And then when you build them, then you secure the rear legs, you wire the solar modules, you understand the wire connections, you connect the cables to the control panels, and you ground the system and you make the electrical connections inside. So lastly, pretty much solar energy is currently being used everywhere. It could be even being used in your neighborhood right as we speak, and I really hope it is. Whenever I was researching what countries and different places that use solar energy, Italy is coming up just behind Spain with a 9% of its energy being solar power, which is pretty incredible. Italy is doing a lot to convert to solar energy, and every 2 months there are more solar energy panels installed in the country than there is in California during a whole entire year. Germany uses the most solar energy, then Spain, then Italy, and then the U.S. 878 megawatts of photovoltaic capacity, meaning 78 MWs of concentrating solar power, were installed in the U.S. in 2010, which is enough to power roughly 200,000 homes, which is pretty incredible. You can see in this graph, it shows the cost for solar panels and how the price has increased a lot, making it more affordable and economical for you and I to purchase for our homes. So I really enjoy this chart a lot because it really shows you benefits and the cost and just really overall importance of putting solar energy panels onto your house. And here are just a few pictures of solar panels, and they all are going to look different depending on where they're located and what part, what type you would like. Okay, so the next source of renewable energy we're going to be talking about is hydropower. And hydropower energy is a form of renewable energy that uses the water stored in dams as well as flowing in the rivers to create electricity in hydropower plants. The rotating blades spin a generator that converts the mechanical energy of the spinning turbine into electrical energy. Personally, I think solar power energy is a little bit more easy to understand, but this one is very interesting as well. And then hydropower, a few advantages is hydropower energy is fueled by water, so it's clean fuel source, meaning it won't pollute the air like power plants that burn fossil fuels such as coal or natural gas. Hydroelectric power is a domestic source of energy, allowing each state to produce their own energy without being reliant on the international fuel source is. And then the energy generated through hydropower relies on the renewable power source, making it a more reliable and affordable source than a fossil fuels that are rapidly being depleted. And then the last advantage is, in addition to a substantial fuel source, hydropower efforts produce a number of benefits such as flood control, irrigation, and water supply. But with every good thing, there are a few bad things. So a few disadvantages of hydropower energy is fish populations can be very highly impacted, and that means fish cannot migrate upstream past impoundment dams to spawning grounds, or if they cannot migrate downstream to the oceans, which is not good for the fishes. And then hydropower can impact water quality and flow. Hydropower plants can cause low dissolved oxygen levels in the water, which can be a problem and be very harmful to riverbank habitats. Hydropower plants can be impacted by drought. When water is not available, the hydropower plants cannot produce electricity. So, yes, that's a few advantages as well as a few disadvantages. And then the cost, modern hydro turbines can convert as much as 90% of the available energy into electricity. The best fossil fuel plants are only about 50% efficient. And then in the U.S., hydropower is produced for an average of 85 cents per kilowatt hour. To use hydro energy, the most common type of hydroelectric power plant uses a dam on a river to store the water in a reservoir. Water is then released from the reservoir and then flows through a turbine, spinning it, which in turn activates a generator to produce electricity. And then hydropower energy is being used all over the world currently, just as well as solar energy, which I think is great. And China is the largest producer of hydroelectricity, followed by Canada, then Brazil, and then the United States. So in this video, it kind of goes over basically how hydro energy is used and the process of using it. So there's a lot of very great informational videos on YouTube because unfortunately I cannot get into detail over every single little thing. Then here are just a few little pictures of hydropower energy plants. I think they're pretty amazing. Okay, so lastly, the last energy I'm going to be talking about is wind power energy, and this one is, I think, the most common energy that you and I could think of at any point, or anyone else in this world could think of. It is the energy that you see. You can see them on the way to UNT, like the little wind turbines. That is what wind power energy is. So wind power energy is a form of energy conversion in which turbines convert kinetic energy of wind into mechanical or electrical energy that can be used for power. Wind power is considered a renewable source of energy. And then a few pros is it's clean energy. There's no fuel to drill, frack, mine, transport, or burn. It's renewable and sustainable. Costs are relatively low and continue to decrease. Low life cycle carbon footprint, and it can be used almost anywhere. A few cons of wind power energy is the wind can be inconsistent, unsteady, and unpredictable, making the wind turbines not able to move. Wind power is not cheap, and like many energy sources, rely on government to remain being able to use them. And wind farms are generally located in rural, I cannot say that correctly, areas, and that might not always be the best case scenario. And then some people often complain about wind, like the noise from the turbines, and birds are impacted as well as other wildlife, and it's very upsetting to me that wildlife is impacted by that. And then the cost is approximately $48,000 to $65,000 to install. The equipment is about $40,000, and the rest is shipping and installation. Towers without any guide wires are more expensive than guide towers. That depends on the cost of electricity and average wind speed. So overall, it is probably it runs about the same price as solar energy, and it is still very expensive. And then the output of a wind turbine depends on the turbine's size and the wind speed through the rotor. An average onshore wind turbine with a capacity of 2.53 to MWs can produce more than 6 million in a year, enough to supply an average of 1,500 households with electricity. So overall, in this video, this project really taught me different forms of non-renewable energies and sources of energy and things like that, and how important it is to be aware of our environment and how uneducated some people can be. So I learned a lot about the 3 different ones I talked about in this video, and I hope you did too. So thanks so much for watching.